welcome, and thank you for being here. Before we begin our quiet journey through the entire Amazing World of Gumball timeline, I invite you to settle into a comfortable place. Let your body relax, let your breathing soften, and allow your mind to gently drift. Tonight we're going to wander through a world that many of us grew up with, a world full of color, humor, and imagination. Yet we'll explore it in a slow, peaceful way. This is your moment to unwind while I guide you through the story of Elmore, its characters, and the timeline that shaped one of the most beloved animated universes of all time. The Amazing World of Gumball is bright, energetic, and wildly creative, yet when we view it through a softer lens, it becomes something else entirely. Almost dreamlike. A place where everything, from the characters to the town itself, quietly settles down after a long day. And that's where our journey begins, in the stillness of Elmore at night. Imagine the town resting beneath a gentle glow. Streetlights hum softly, casting warm halos of yellow across empty sidewalks. The houses, usually echoing with chaos, jokes, and surprises, become peaceful silhouettes. The wind moves slowly, brushing past trees and gently tapping against windows. Every home, every character, every little corner of Elmore is quiet for a moment, as if the entire world is ready to share a bedtime story. This is the Elmore we'll walk through tonight. Not the loud, chaotic version, but the calm one. When everything slows down enough for us to explore its history, its timeline, and its magic at a pace that lulls you towards sleep. Our story begins long before the first episode ever aired. It begins before school bells ring, before pranks are pulled, before adventures unfold. We start at the very beginning of the Watterson family's life, and gradually move through everything that made their world what it is. But before we dive into the timeline itself, let's spend a moment gently understanding the world we're entering. Elmore is unique. It's a town where different animation styles blend together, where physics stretches like rubber, where emotions take shape, and where almost anything can happen. But tonight, it feels almost like a small dream nestled inside your imagination. Quiet, soft, and welcoming. The colorful buildings melt into shades of blue, purple, and soft orange as the night deepens. The town's characters, even the ones who buzz with endless energy during the day, are now winding down. Gumball, known for his loud, funny, unpredictable misadventures, is finally resting. His room is dim, lit only by a small bedside lamp, and his usual expressions of exaggerated surprise or frustration fade away into peaceful sleep. Darwin, his loyal brother and best friend, curls up nearby, breathing lightly, a tiny smile on his face. Anais, sharp and intelligent even in silence, sleeps soundly with a book resting beside her. Nicole, always strong and determined, finally allows herself to relax. And Richard? Well, he usually falls asleep first, even before everyone else. These quiet moments give us the perfect place to start our journey. Tonight, as we move through the timeline, we'll take everything slowly. Every chapter, every memory, and every story from Elmore will be told with soft edges and gentle pacing. Nothing will rush. Nothing will overwhelm. You're here to relax, and the story will move at the exact rhythm your mind needs to unwind. Throughout our journey, we'll meet many characters, some familiar, some forgotten, some who made us laugh, and even some who shaped the deeper, more mysterious parts of the show. You'll encounter Gumball Watterson, the energetic blue cat whose life is full of mischief and heart. Darwin Watterson, the kind, optimistic brother who evolved from a goldfish. Anais Watterson, the brilliant member of the family with a mind far beyond her age. Nicole and Richard, their loving, complicated parents who bring warmth and chaos in equal measure. Penny Fitzgerald, Gumball's best friend and love interest. Carrie, the gentle ghost who floats through the halls of Elmore Junior High. Tobias, Banana Joe, Bobert, Carmen, and many more classmates and friends. And even Rob, the strange character who grows into something far more important as the timeline unfolds. But don't worry, each character will arrive slowly, with enough time and softness for you to ease into their stories. This timeline is deep and full of layers, yet we'll glide through it like drifting across calm water. Soon we'll travel through the Watterson family's early years, explore childhood friendships, move into school days, and eventually reach the more surreal and mysterious parts of the Gumball universe. The void, alternate timelines, and the strange collapse of reality itself. But even the most intense or emotional moments will be told gently, in a way designed to help you relax rather than tense up. Think of this journey like walking through a quiet museum at night. Each part of the timeline is a small room filled with memories, stories, and turning points. As we step into each one, the lights will glow softly, and I'll guide you through what happened, why it mattered, and how it shaped the world of Gumball. The pace will always remain steady and peaceful. This introduction is simply here to invite you into the experience, to prepare you for a long, calming narration where the world of Gumball unfolds like a bedtime story made of nostalgia, imagination, and gentle wonder. So as we begin this slow adventure through the entire timeline, just remember, there is no need to stay fully awake. You can drift, you can rest, you can let go. The story will be here, continuing softly, guiding your mind through familiar characters and gentle nostalgia. When you're ready, we'll move onward into the very beginning of the Gumball timeline. A beginning filled with small moments, big memories, and the quiet foundation of a world we've come to love. Let's begin. Before the series ever began, long before Gumball stepped into the chaotic world we know, the story of the Watterson family was already quietly unfolding. Nicole Senecourt grew up in a home shaped by discipline, structure, and constant expectations. From the time she was a small child, her parents pushed her to excel, to be perfect, to outshine everyone around her. Her evenings were spent with textbooks and practice sheets while other children played outside. She was brilliant, focused, and remarkably determined, but underneath all that pressure lived a quiet longing, a wish to simply be free, to laugh without fearing she would disappoint someone. On the opposite side of Elmore, a boy named Richard Watterson lived a completely different kind of life. He grew up without strict rules, drifting through his childhood with a carefree spirit and a heart full of innocence. His days were messy and unorganized, filled with snacks, silly accidents, and endless daydreams. He struggled with school, often lost in his own little world, but he had a natural warmth that made people smile even when he wasn't trying. Nicole and Richard were two people who should have never crossed paths, yet somehow life brought them together in the simplest way. One day in school, Nicole was walking through the hallway with her books neatly stacked in her arms when Richard accidentally tripped, sending his belongings scattering all over the floor. Nicole, with her instinct for order, knelt down to help him gather everything. It was a small moment, but in that moment something gentle began to form. Nicole, used to living under pressure, saw kindness in Richard, kindness without judgment or expectation. Richard, who often felt misunderstood, saw strength and capability in Nicole. From that day on, their paths crossed more often. Richard found reasons to be near her, sometimes intentionally and sometimes just by chance. Nicole, who usually kept others at a distance, didn't push him away. He made her laugh, not with grand gestures, but with simple sincerity. With him, she felt lighter, freer, more like herself. As they grew into their teenage years, the connection between them only deepened. They balanced each other perfectly. Nicole helped Richard stay focused and grounded, giving him direction he never had before. Richard, in return, taught Nicole the beauty of letting go, of embracing imperfection, of living for herself instead of for expectations. Their dates were simple, sitting under trees, talking about dreams, sharing snacks, or laughing about small things no one else noticed. Eventually, Nicole reached a point where she had to choose between the path her parents demanded and the life her heart quietly desired. For the first time, she chose her own happiness. She chose Richard. It wasn't an easy decision, and their early life together wasn't perfect, but it was real. It was filled with softness, growth, and the kind of love that doesn't come from grand gestures, but from everyday moments of understanding. Their family began to grow when their first child, Gumball, was born. From the moment he arrived, he was a tiny storm of energy, part Nicole, part Richard, and entirely his own little whirlwind. Even as a baby, he caused trouble, made a mess of everything, and somehow made everyone laugh while doing it. Nicole tried to be the perfect mother, but Gumball taught her quickly that perfection wasn't possible. Richard, meanwhile, adored fatherhood, even if he didn't always know what he was doing. Soon after, their second child, Aeneas, joined the family. She showed signs of brilliance almost instantly. While Gumball bounced off the walls with imagination and chaos, Aeneas was calm, observant, and incredibly intelligent. She brought balance and clarity to the home, offering wisdom far beyond her years. And then, in the most unexpected but magical way, Darwin became part of their world. What began as a simple goldfish in a bowl became so much more. Darwin watched the family, loved them quietly, and one day grew legs and joined them as a true member of the Watterson household. His innocence, kindness, and gentle heart brought warmth into the family, becoming the emotional thread that tied everyone together. Their early years in Elmore were beautifully messy, rushed breakfasts, burnt toast, falling objects, forgotten homework, late-night talks, and laughter echoing through the house. Nicole softened as she learned to love without the harsh pressure of perfection. Richard remained joyful, hopeful, and endlessly supportive. Gumball grew into a wildly imaginative child with boundless energy. Darwin became thoughtful, patient, and deeply loyal. Aeneas became wise, responsible, and quietly confident. Together, they became a family built not on perfection, but on love, chaos, understanding, and the small moments that stitched their lives together. Before the show begins, before the school bells and the crazy adventures that make up the world of Gumball, the Wattersons lived a life shaped by gentle beginnings, unexpected love, and the journey of finding balance between responsibility and freedom. These early years, full of growth and discovery, set the foundation for everything that would later unfold in the incredible universe of Elmore. And as we drift further into their timeline, we carry with us the soft history of how this beautifully imperfect family came to be. Gumball's early childhood began long before the wild adventures we see in the show, and like everything else in the Watterson home, it started with a mix of chaos, warmth, and unforgettable small moment. When Gumball was just a toddler, the house felt like a tiny world orbiting entirely around him. Nicole and Richard adored him, even when he turned their living room into a disaster zone, which happened almost daily. Imagine Gumball as a tiny blue kitten wobbling across the carpet, his eyes full of wonder, excitement, and pure mischief. His first steps were less like gentle progress and more like a series of unplanned tumbles. each ending with someone rushing forward to catch him. One moment he'd stand proudly, his little tail pointed straight up, as if announcing his newfound independence. The next moment, he'd trip over his own feet and crash into a stack of toys, giggling as if falling was the most fun thing in the world. Nicole kept trying to record his milestones with the seriousness of a parent who wanted everything preserved perfectly. But Gumball kept turning every attempt into slapstick comedy, running out of frame, toppling furniture, or grabbing the camera. His first word came in a moment so simple that it almost went unnoticed. Richard was offering him a warm bottle, and Gumball grabbed it with both paws and mumbled something that sounded like more. A second later, he knocked the bottle to the floor and laughed uncontrollably. It wasn't clear if he was actually asking for more or simply reacting to the fun of making a mess, but the family celebrated anyway. From that moment on, Gumball seemed determined to fill the house with noise, little sounds, scribbles of laughter, and expressive babbling that made even the calmest days feel lively. Before Darwin ever got his legs and became the Gumball we know today's best friend, he was simply a tiny goldfish in a bowl sitting on a counter. Gumball must have sensed something special about him from the start, because even as a toddler, he kept dragging his toy box over to the bowl just so he could sit beside it. Sometimes he would babble to Darwin for long stretches, telling him stories in toddler language, convinced that Darwin understood every word. And in a way, Darwin did. His tiny orange body would dart around the bowl excitedly every time Gumball came near. Even though Darwin was just a pet then, something like a quiet connection began forming between them, a bond that didn't need evolution or language, just a kind of gentle childhood magic. Gumball's chaotic energy carried him through every room in the house, but he always returned to Darwin's side, tapping the glass gently or placing his toys nearby, as if sharing his world with the little fish. It was one of the first signs of Gumball's ability to love fiercely, even in the middle of his youthful storm. As Gumball grew a little older, the brothers' bond deepened, even before Darwin had legs to run after him. There were days when Gumball would sit on the floor and roll his toy cars toward the fishbowl, watching Darwin swish around as if cheering him on. Sometimes Gumball would nap beside the counter, curled up with his tiny blanket, and Darwin would hover near the side of the bowl closest to him. Nicole often found the scene adorable, a reminder that Gumball's heart was just as big as his imagination. Richard, on the other hand, misunderstood what was happening and assumed Darwin was guarding Gumball like a knight. He would pat Darwin's bowl and whisper, "Good job, little guy," as if Darwin had taken babysitting responsibilities upon himself. The house was often loud and disorderly, yet these small, gentle moments created a soft quietness, proof that even amid chaos, warmth always bloomed. The day Gumball went to kindergarten marked the beginning of a new wave of adventures. That morning, he bounced around the house with more excitement than anyone could contain. Nicole tried her best to dress him neatly, but he kept running off halfway through, wearing one sock, half a shirt, and a huge grin on his face. Richard, emotional as always, cried harder than Gumball did. Eventually, they managed to get him into his clothes and into the car, and the ride to school was filled with questions that made no sense. Do teachers like spaghetti? Can I teach the class if I want? Do crayons taste like rainbows? By the time they arrived, Nicole felt both exhausted and proud. Gumball stepped into the kindergarten classroom with wide eyes, amazed by the colorful walls, tiny chairs, and the dozens of new faces staring back at him. Within 5 minutes, he had introduced himself to 10 kids, spilled a jar of paint, and accidentally knocked down an entire tower of wooden blocks. But somehow, even in the chaos, the other children liked him immediately. His energy was magnetic, his smile infectious, and his curiosity endless. Gumball's earliest friendships in Elmore began quietly, in ways he didn't even notice at first. There were kids who found him strange, kids who found him funny, and kids who simply followed him because he made every moment feel exciting. One of his earliest friends was a little girl who always carried a crayon in her hand. Gumball admired her drawings and tried to copy them, even though he ended up drawing messy spirals that made no sense. Another friend was a boy obsessed with building tall block towers, and Gumball helped him, though half the time he accidentally knocked them down. The teachers learned quickly that wherever Gumball was, a mild storm followed, but it was the kind of storm that left everyone laughing instead of crying. At nap time, he struggled to stay still and ended up whispering silly jokes to the kids around him until they giggled themselves to sleep. His teachers often sighed deeply, but they also couldn't help smiling, because Gumball brought a kind of cheerful brightness to the room that made everything feel alive. Back at home, Darwin continued to watch Gumball's growth with admiring little bubbles. Gumball would come home from kindergarten and rush to Darwin's bowl, telling him everything that happened. He acted out the stories with dramatic gestures, waving his arms wildly and occasionally bumping into furniture. Darwin watched him with wide, adoring eyes, swishing around as if cheering at every exciting detail. Even before Darwin could speak, walk, or hug, he somehow understood that Gumball was his best friend. Over time, the Watterson home filled with more humorous early childhood stories, soft memories told in the gentle tone of a bedtime tale. There was the time Gumball tried to bake a surprise cake by himself and ended up mixing flour with Richard's sock collection, creating a doughy mess no one could identify. There was the afternoon Gumball decided he wanted to fix the TV by smacking it with a toy hammer, which somehow made the picture clearer for a moment before it collapsed completely. And of course, there were the many days when Gumball insisted that Darwin, still just a fish, could play tag with him. He would run around the room while Darwin darted in circles inside his bowl. Both of them thought they were winning. But beneath all the humor, Gumball's early childhood carried a gentle sweetness. He was clumsy but caring, wild but loving. He caused messes, but he also brought warmth. He asked endless questions, made endless mistakes, and shared endless giggles. Nicole sometimes felt overwhelmed, but every night when she tucked him into bed and listened to his soft breathing, she knew these were the moments that shaped their family's heart. Richard, ever sentimental, often fell asleep beside Gumball while reading him stories, snoring louder than the story itself. And Darwin watched it all, waiting for the day he could finally step out of his bowl and join Gumball fully in the world he adored. Gumball's early childhood was not perfect, not peaceful, and definitely not quiet. But it was full of charm, innocence, and laughter. These early years prepared him for the friendships, adventures, and unpredictable moments that would later define his life in Elmore. And as the nights grew softer and the memories grew sweeter, the world began gently preparing itself for the extraordinary bond between Gumball and Darwin, one that would soon change everything. As Gumball moved from early childhood into the gentle, slightly more adventurous rhythm of his school-age years, his world began to stretch wider than his home and closer than the unpredictable horizon of Elmore. He was still the same spirited, curious, slightly chaotic child he had always been, but now he had a greater sense of himself, an understanding that the world wasn't just a playground, but a place full of strange rules, new faces, and unexpected discoveries. The first day he walked into Elmore Elementary, he didn't feel nervous the way some children might. Instead, he looked at the hallways as if they were a maze built just for him to explore, with doors to open, corners to peek around, and mysteries tucked into every classroom. Darwin, still his closest companion, followed him like a gentle shadow, always ready to bring calm where Gumball brought noise. Their bond grew stronger with each new thing they experienced together. Darwin admired Gumball's fearless spirit, while Gumball relied on Darwin's warmth, kindness, and quiet encouragement to keep him from wandering too far off the rails. Even though they were different in almost every way, they moved through life like two puzzle pieces that had somehow been shaped perfectly for one another. School quickly became a place where Gumball could express every bit of his imagination, even if that sometimes meant causing the occasional classroom disaster. He learned that crayons could be used for drawing, but also for testing whether a wall really was clean. He discovered that paint wasn't only for paper, but also accidentally for his classmates. And he realized that quiet time was not a suggestion, but a rule he never fully mastered. But even with all his chaotic energy, Gumball had a heart that made it impossible for people to stay mad at him for long. His laughter was contagious, his sincerity was undeniable, and his ability to turn mistakes into stories made him strangely endearing. It was around this time that Darwin officially stepped beyond being just a goldfish. His evolution into a walking, talking brother changed the rhythm of school for both of them, because suddenly the quiet fish who once watched the world through glass now lived beside Gumball in full color. They attended class together, shared lunches, and learned lessons side by side. Darwin approached everything with gentle curiosity, offering thoughtful questions, while Gumball offered impulsive answers, creating a perfect blend of innocence and adventure. As the years passed, Gumball began forming friendships that added even more color to his world. He met characters who were as unique and unpredictable as he was, though each one taught him something new about the world and himself. There was the soft-spoken yet emotional Penny, who always seemed to understand Gumball's heart even when he didn't understand it himself. There was the slightly dramatic but strangely loyal Banana Joe, who matched Gumball's energy in a way that made their classrooms feel like stages for the most ridiculous performances. Tobiah, confident and competitive, pushed Gumball to try harder, even if the competition was completely unnecessary. Carrie drifted into his life with quiet, ghostly grace, offering a subtle balance to his loud, vivid personality. And then there was Darwin, always at the center, always the grounding force, always the one who believed in him no matter how far his imagination spiraled. These early friendships shaped Gumball's worldview, teaching him that every person brought their own story, their own chaos, and their own gentle contribution to the tapestry of Elmore. With each school day came small adventures that, while ordinary on the surface, felt monumental to a child. Lunchtime spills became memories of laughter. Recess games turned into epic tales of bravery. Even minor scoldings from teachers felt like life lessons wrapped in humor. Gumball learned how to make mistakes gracefully, how to apologize sincerely, and how to bounce back from every misstep with a bigger smile than before. In the evenings, when the sun dipped behind the colorful houses of Elmore and the streetlights buzzed softly, Gumball would return home with a backpack full of unfinished assignments and a head full of stories he couldn't wait to tell. Nicole would listen with a mix of pride and exhaustion, Richard with unwavering amusement, Aeneas with analytical curiosity, and Darwin with a warm smile that showed he already knew half the story because he had been there for every moment. These school-age years were gentle, funny, and full of the kind of softness that only childhood can bring. They were years of learning who he was, years of discovering friendship, and years of building memories that would become the foundation of all the adventures still ahead. Even though Gumball didn't realize it yet, these simple days, filled with laughter, messes, tiny triumphs, and bigger-than-life feelings, were shaping him quietly, preparing him for the world in the most comforting, innocent way. And as the timeline drifts forward like a slow breeze through the city of Elmore at dusk, we follow Gumball into the next stage of his life, carrying with us the warmth of these early school days and the gentle reminder that even the smallest moments can create the biggest pieces of a story. As Gumball grew a little older and stepped further into the heart of his childhood, the world around him became even more vivid, even more unpredictable, yet somehow still comforting in its strange, familiar way. These were the years when Elmore began to open itself like a storybook, each day offering new lessons wrapped in humor and gentle chaos. Gumball woke up each morning with the same naive confidence that today would be the day he finally acted maturely, only to discover, usually within the first hour, that maturity could wait until tomorrow. He walked through the streets of Elmore with Darwin by his side, the two moving as if bound by an invisible thread of innocence and curiosity. They were now fully settled into school routine, yet their days rarely went according to plan. A simple math lesson could transform into an existential crisis. A spelling test could become an adventure. And a walk through the hallway might include anything from unexpected explosions to strange interdimensional oddities that only Elmore could produce. Still, even in a town where reality bent itself for comedy, Gumball found comfort in the predictability of his relationships, the warm teasing of Aeneas, the gentle encouragement from his father, the structured yet loving guidance of his mother, and the constant companionship of Darwin. These middle childhood years were when Gumball began to understand friendship in a deeper, softer way. His bond with Penny grew more meaningful, even if both of them stumbled through their feelings with the awkwardness only children can master. They shared quiet moments on the school field, exchanged shy glances in class, and learned how to care for someone without fully knowing how to express it. With Darwin and Penny, Gumball felt a growing sense of belonging, something that wrapped around him like a blanket on cool evenings. His larger friend group added layers of warmth and color to his days. Carrie taught him how to listen without judgment, showing him that sometimes silence was its own kind of communication. Tobias, with his bold confidence, pushed Gumball to be braver, while Banana Joe brought moments of absurdity that made even the dullest afternoons feel like a comedy show. And then there were characters like Alan, whose kindness reminded Gumball that the world wasn't just funny or chaotic. It could also be gentle and deeply good. Each friend shaped him in small, quiet ways, guiding him through the confusing maze of childhood emotions, where jealousy, excitement, embarrassment, and joy tangled together like threads in a colorful ball of yarn. Yet despite the adventures, the mishaps, and the unintentional troublemaking, home remained Gumball's softest place. The evenings in the Watterson house became a blend of comforting routines, Nicole coming home with a tired smile, Richard preparing meals that defied logic but somehow tasted like love, Aeneas quietly working on problems far beyond her age level, and Darwin humming gently as he helped Gumball untangle the day's confusion. These slow, warm nights helped Gumball understand the rhythm of family life. Not perfect, not peaceful all the time, but full of affection and acceptance. Even the arguments, the spilled food, the forgotten chores, and the frantic morning scrambles were threads in the fabric of a home built on unconditional love. Gumball found himself learning small lessons during these evenings: how to apologize, how to forgive, how to share, how to laugh at himself, and how to let go when things didn't go his way. These lessons didn't arrive with dramatic music or big speeches. They came quietly, tucked into everyday moments, the way most important lessons do. School continued to be a landscape of surprises. Gumball learned how unpredictable friendships could be, how misunderstanding sometimes led to growth, and how even silly mistakes could leave behind little memories that stayed forever. He didn't notice it happening, but he was growing, not just taller, but softer in the heart, more aware of others, more capable of empathy. His adventures were still loud and messy, but hidden beneath the noise were gentle realizations about loyalty, responsibility, and the value of being true to himself. When he failed, he bounced back. When he succeeded, he celebrated with the people he cared about. When he felt lost, Darwin was always there, offering the steady comfort of someone who knew him better than he knew himself. And on the days when Elmore threw something completely bizarre into their path, a living household object, a glitch in reality, or an emotional meltdown from a student, Gumball learned that life didn't need to be understood to be enjoyed. As the night settled softly over Elmore, the glow of the streetlights painted the sidewalks in warm, hazy shades, and Gumball often lay in bed thinking about everything he still wanted to discover. He didn't see himself as a hero or a leader. He was just a kid trying to make sense of a world that was too colorful and too strange to ever fully explain. But there was comfort in that mystery, a kind of calm that came from knowing he didn't have to figure out everything at once. Each day was another chance to try, another opportunity to learn something new about his friends, his family, or himself. And as the timeline drifts onward, carrying Gumball further into the heart of childhood, we follow with a quiet understanding that these years, full of humor, softness, friendship, and small adventures, are shaping him in ways he won't appreciate until much later. For now, they simply exist like gentle stepping stones on the path of his journey, guiding him forward through the comforting, dreamlike world of Elmore. As Gumball continued his journey through childhood, his world expanded in a way that felt both exciting and warmly familiar, like walking through a neighborhood he had seen 100 times, but noticing new details each day. This was the stage of his life when friendships stopped being simple playtime connections and began turning into something more meaningful, an emotional map guiding him through the strange landscapes of growing up. Penny became one of the brightest parts of this map. Their bond, once shy and uncertain, slowly blossomed into something gentle and sweet. Gumball found himself caring about her in ways he didn't fully understand, feeling nervous when she smiled at him and strangely protective whenever she felt sad. Their conversations grew longer, their laughter softer, and their moments together began carrying hints of feelings too new and too delicate for either of them to name. Even when he stumbled over his words or acted foolishly, something he did often, Penny saw the sincerity behind his chaos, and that simple understanding gave Gumball a comfort he didn't realize he needed. With Darwin, the connection deepened even further, becoming the emotional core of Gumball's entire childhood. Darwin understood him without explanations, supported him without judgment, and offered kindness even when Gumball felt frustrated or confused. They weren't just brothers. They were a pair of hearts, learning the world together, drifting between trouble and discovery with a closeness that felt unbreakable. Friendships with others flourished in their own unique, humorous ways, too. With Carrie, Gumball learned how important it was to listen, to be patient, and to understand emotions that weren't always easy to express. She showed him that sadness didn't have to be hidden, and that even ghosts had their quiet struggles. Tobias brought competition into Gumball's life, not harmful, not mean, but playful challenges that pushed him to try harder and sometimes laugh at himself when things didn't go as planned. Banana Joe reminded him not to take the world too seriously, offering silly moments that banished even smallest worries. But characters like Alan, the lollipop who was endlessly optimistic, Gumball discovered how powerful kindness could be, even when it seemed too simple to matter. Each friend added a new shade to the canvas of his life, helping him understand that people weren't just characters in his story. They were individuals with feelings, fears, hopes, and little pieces of their hearts tucked into every interaction. As Gumball matured emotionally, even just a little, he began facing moments that weren't as loud or silly as his usual adventures. There were quiet disappointments, misunderstandings with friends, and lessons about responsibility that came softly but firmly, the way gentle waves nudge a shoreline. He learned what it meant to feel guilty after accidentally hurting someone's feelings, and what it meant to apologize with sincerity rather than excuses. He learned how to comfort Darwin during moments of self-doubt, how to support Anais when she struggled with something too advanced for anyone else, and how to appreciate his parents in ways he hadn't before, recognizing the small sacrifices Nicole made and the innocent, unwavering love that Richard offered. These realizations didn't transform him overnight, but they settled in him slowly, like tiny seeds that would grow with time. School became a backdrop for these changes, hosting both emotional moments and gentle humor. A simple group project could turn into a lesson about teamwork. A misunderstanding with a friend could evolve into a heartfelt conversation. Even the rough days, when he felt embarrassed, frustrated, or overwhelmed, helped him learn resilience, showing him how to bounce back and face the next day with courage. And through it all, Darwin was there, offering steady companionship, celebrating every triumph and soothing every disappointment. Their friendship wasn't just important, it was foundational. Gumball grew because Darwin grew with him, and every emotional step forward was a shared moment shaped by their bond. Home, as always, wrapped around these growing pains like a warm blanket. Some nights were chaotic, filled with spilled food or frantic homework deadlines. But most nights ended in soft, familiar comforts, Richard's goofy laugh echoing through the hallway, Nicole offering a proud smile after a long day, Anais reading quietly in the corner, and Darwin humming as he brushed his teeth. Gumball would settle into bed, the events of the day still swirling in his head, but somehow softened by the knowledge that he was surrounded by love. Even when he made mistakes, he knew he would wake up to a family that supported him, a town that amused him, and friends who cared for him in their own strange but sincere ways. As Gumball continued moving through the timeline of his childhood, he entered a stage where the world around him felt bigger, stranger, and somehow more meaningful than ever before. These were the years when his life in Elmore began to intertwine with the more magical, unpredictable forces that made the town feel almost alive. Years when simple moments became extraordinary without warning, when ordinary days took unexpected turns, and when Gumball found himself discovering not just new places, but new sides of himself. He began to notice the emotional weight of things more clearly now. A careless mistake didn't just make him laugh, it sometimes made him think. A kind gesture didn't just warm his heart, it stayed with him long after the moment passed. Even his wild adventures started carrying small, quiet lessons that settled into him like whispers. Darwin, of course, remained the constant presence at his side, still balancing Gumball's impulsive nature with his own gentle understanding. Their bond deepened as they navigated increasingly complicated days. Days when friendships were tested, when emotions tangled into knots, and when growing up felt confusing, exciting, and just a little overwhelming. School became an even more dynamic backdrop during this time, full of new challenges that didn't always come from textbooks. Gumball found himself dealing with feelings he had never experienced before. Jealousy when a friend seemed closer to someone else. Guilt when he spoke without thinking. Pride when he accomplished something small but meaningful. He didn't always know how to handle these emotions, but each one nudged him forward, shaping him slowly and softly. His friends played a huge part in this emotional journey. Penny continued to grow closer to him, and their connection picked up little threads of tenderness that felt delicate but unmistakable. They shared glances that lingered longer than before, talked about things that were a bit more personal, and slowly began to see each other with deeper understanding. Carrie's presence helped Gumball explore the quiet side of emotions, the feelings that didn't always come with loud laughter or dramatic reactions. She taught him how to sit with sadness, how to be patient, and how to acknowledge feelings that weren't easy to name. With Tobias and Banana Joe, he experienced the messy, funny side of friendship, moments where competition, silliness, and misunderstandings taught him how to communicate better and how to appreciate others for who they were rather than who he wanted them to be. At home, the Watterson household remained the center of warmth and chaos that shaped every part of who Gumball was becoming. Nicole's disciplined approach to life clashed with Gumball's carefree nature often, but beneath every scolding was love. Love that pushed him to grow, to reflect, to consider consequences, even if he didn't always manage to follow through. Richard, in his innocent, carefree way, showed Gumball that mistakes were not only normal, but sometimes important, because they revealed what truly mattered. Anais continued to be the quiet voice of reason, offering insight far beyond her years, gently guiding her brothers without ever belittling them. And Darwin remained the emotional center of the family, bringing compassion into every situation, making sure Gumball never felt alone even on the hardest days. These evenings at home became little pockets of emotional learning, quiet conversations at the dinner table, comforting hugs after long days, and soft moments when Gumball realized how deeply his family shaped him. Elmore itself seemed to shift during this period, as if responding to Gumball's inner changes. The town's bizarre events didn't just feel like wild adventures anymore. They became mirrors reflecting the lessons he needed to learn. A strange glitch in reality might teach him about responsibility. A magical mix-up could reveal the importance of honesty. A sudden conflict turning surreal might show him how misunderstandings can grow if not handled with care. Even the characters he once viewed as simple classmates or neighbors began revealing layers, fears, insecurities, dreams, and hopes that made them feel more real to him. These discoveries softened Gumball's outlook, making him more thoughtful, more considerate, and more aware of how his actions could ripple through the world around him. As the nights in Elmore grew quieter and the days drifted by with a comforting rhythm, Gumball found himself growing in ways that weren't loud or obvious, but gentle and steady. He became a little more patient, a little more understanding, and a little more aware of what it meant to be himself. His laughter was still loud, his mistakes still frequent, and his imagination still wonderfully chaotic. But beneath all that, a deeper sense of empathy was forming, like a small light glowing quietly inside him. And as the timeline moves forward, carrying him toward the next stage of his journey, he continues walking through childhood with that light guiding him, learning more about the world, about the people he loves, and about the person he is slowly becoming, one soft, comforting moment at a time. As Gumball moved further along the gentle path of his growing-up years, He entered a stage where the world around him began to feel more connected, more layered, and filled with small moments that carried deeper meaning. Without even realizing it, he started understanding that life wasn't just a series of funny misadventures or chaotic accidents, but also a collection of emotions, responsibilities, and tiny turning points that slowly shaped who he was becoming. His days were still colorful, loud, and unpredictable. This was Elmore, after all. But now each moment seemed to echo a little longer in his heart. He began noticing how people felt, paying attention to their expressions and moods, sometimes sensing sadness or joy even before anyone spoke. With Darwin by his side, Gumball explored these emotional details with a mixture of curiosity and confusion, trying to figure out how to comfort a friend, how to admit when he was wrong, and how to be honest about feelings that didn't always make sense. These deeper realizations came in quiet waves, often late at night when the house was still or during calm. Walks home from school when the sky glowed softly over Elmore's rooftops. During this time, Gumball's friendships became more meaningful in ways he didn't fully understand but instinctively appreciated. Penny continued to drift closer to him, her gentle presence giving him warmth he couldn't quite explain but always looked forward to. Their conversations grew more sincere, the awkwardness between them transforming into a soft, comfortable bond that made Gumball think about the future for the first time, dreaming of who he might become and who he hoped Penny would see him as. Carrie helped him navigate the emotional complexities he often didn't have words for, teaching him how to be there for someone without needing to fix everything. Her quiet wisdom balanced Gumball's loud heart in a way that made him feel grounded and understood. Tobias, Banana Joe, and the others continued adding humor and unpredictability to his days, reminding him that not every moment needed to be serious and that laughter was still one of the most important parts of growing up. Even Rocky, Principal Brown, and Mr. Small played small roles in guiding him, sometimes unintentionally, toward a better understanding of responsibility, kindness, and the strange mysteries of life. At home, the Watterson household remained the beating heart of Gumball's world, offering lessons wrapped in love, confusion, and the kind of chaos only his family could create. Nicole pushed him gently but firmly into becoming more responsible, more thoughtful, and more aware of how his choices affected others. Her discipline wasn't just about rules. It was about shaping him into someone who could stand strong in a wildly unpredictable world. Richard provided the balance, his laid-back nature teaching Gumball to find joy even in simple things, to laugh at life's difficulties, and to stay kind even when things felt overwhelming. Anais continued being the logical anchor of the family, helping Gumball understand problems he couldn't solve on his own and occasionally revealing insights that startled him with their clarity. And Darwin, always Darwin, stayed close as Gumball's emotional guide, offering comfort when he felt confused, encouragement when he doubted himself, and unconditional love regardless of how messy or imperfect the day had been. School life deepened during this phase as well, becoming more than a place for lessons and recess. It became the stage upon which Gumball learned some of his biggest emotional truths. He discovered how easy it was to hurt someone with a careless joke, and how important it was to apologize with sincerity. He realized that being a good friend wasn't just about sharing fun moments. It was about showing up when things were difficult, listening when someone needed comfort, and being brave enough to admit when he was wrong. Some days were full of laughter and adventure, while others brought small challenges that made him stop and think. But each experience, whether joyful or confusing, added another layer to his growing awareness of the world. Even the strange happenings of Elmore, time loops, magical mishaps, and surreal events became metaphors in their own way, teaching Gumball that life could be unpredictable, but still beautiful, confusing, but still meaningful. In the quiet moments, those soft evenings when the sky turned purple over Elmore, or the slow mornings when the sunlight slipped gently across his room, Gumball felt himself changing without resistance. He wasn't rushing to grow up, but he wasn't holding himself back either. He was learning how to be more patient, more understanding, more open-hearted, and more comfortable with the emotions that had once felt too big for him. He still made mistakes, still got carried away, still chased wild ideas without thinking. But now he noticed what he learned from each of those moments. And as he drifted through this gentle phase of growing up, the timeline moved forward with a comforting steadiness, guiding him softly toward new adventures, deeper connections, and an ever-expanding understanding of the magical, dreamlike world he called home. Gumball's life continued to unfold like a slow, colorful dream, each day blending laughter, curiosity, and quiet discoveries into the tapestry of his growing-up years. By now, he had begun to understand more clearly who he was, not just in his own home, but within the bustling, bizarre town of Elmore. Every street, every classroom, every corner of the neighborhood seemed to hold tiny lessons hidden beneath its familiar chaos. He started noticing patterns in the madness around him, recognizing that while things could be unpredictable, there was a rhythm to life if he simply paid attention. Darwin remained by his side, his gentle presence a constant reminder that some parts of life were steady and comforting, even when the world seemed to twist and bend in the most unexpected ways. Together, they navigated the everyday surprises of childhood, the spilled paints, the misheard instructions, the sudden eruptions of hilarity. And in these moments, Gumball began seeing the subtle ways that kindness, patience, and understanding shaped the world. Friendships became more nuanced during this time, stretching beyond shared jokes and playground games. Penny, Carrie, Tobias, Banana Joe, Alan, and others slowly revealed the depths of their own personalities, and Gumball learned that each person had a story, emotions, and small struggles that weren't always obvious. Penny's quiet wisdom and gentle patience taught him empathy, while Carrie's calm presence encouraged him to slow down and notice the quieter aspects of life. Tobias's competitiveness reminded him to push himself, but also to accept that losing sometimes could still be part of learning. Banana Joe's silliness and Alan's unwavering optimism showed Gumball that joy could be found in both the small and big moments, and that laughter was a language that connected everyone, even in the most complicated situations. These friendships became little anchors in a world that sometimes seemed to spin too quickly, helping him understand that relationships were not only about fun, they were about trust, support, and caring for others in ways that weren't always obvious. At home, the Watterson family continued to provide the warmth and structure that shaped Gumball's understanding of love and responsibility. Nicole's careful guidance helped him refine his sense of right and wrong, teaching him how to consider the consequences of his actions, even when they seemed minor. Richard, in his own gentle and chaotic way, reminded Gumball that life didn't always need to be serious, that humor could heal frustration, and that mistakes were natural and even important. Anais quietly offered wisdom beyond her years, helping her brothers think critically and solve problems with clarity, but always with love at the heart of her guidance. And Darwin, the ever-present companion, continued being the soft center of Gumball's emotional world, reminding him to pause, reflect, and offer kindness, even when the day had been loud, confusing, or exhausting. School remained a mix of structured lessons and unpredictable adventures, a place where Gumball's imagination could flourish while still being grounded by the growing awareness of others' feelings. He began seeing cause and effect more clearly, how a careless word could hurt a friend, how thoughtful actions could strengthen bonds, and how patience could make even difficult moments more manageable. Even in the strange, surreal happenings of Elmore Elementary, there were lessons hidden for the attentive heart. Whether a hallway turned upside down, a sudden magical mishap occurred, or an argument escalated into absurdity, Gumball started learning the importance of observation, empathy, and creative problem-solving. He realized that life could be chaotic and funny at the same time, and that the most meaningful moments often came when he paid attention to both the humor and the heart beneath it. Evenings at home became moments of reflection and gentle learning. As the sun dipped behind the soft pastel rooftops of Elmore and the streetlights flickered to life, Gumball would settle into familiar routines that comforted him. Dinner with his family, shared laughter over silly stories, and quiet conversations that allowed him to process the day. Sometimes he would lie in bed thinking about the friendships he cherished, the lessons he had learned, and the small joys that made life worth noticing. The way Darwin always listened, the way Penny smiled when he made a small joke, or the way Nicole's smile could soften the hardest moments. These gentle, recurring rhythms helped him understand that life wasn't just about the big, loud adventures. It was about the accumulation of small, meaningful moments that shaped character, built empathy, and strengthened the connections that mattered most. In this period of his life, Gumball was still energetic, imaginative, and full of curiosity, but there was a quiet awareness beginning to take root, a sense of responsibility, an understanding of kindness, and an appreciation for the emotional world around him. The humor, chaos, and unpredictability remained, but they were now balanced with thoughtfulness, reflection, and a growing sense of self. Every experience, whether it was joyful, confusing, or challenging, added to the soft, glowing story of his childhood, carrying him forward gently through Elmore, through friendships, and through the comforting rhythm of family life. And as his days continued to drift forward, one soft evening at a time, Gumball moved steadily toward the next stage of his life, wrapped in warmth, humor, and the quiet magic of a town that was as much a part of him as he was of it. Gumball's childhood continued to unfold like a slow, colorful dream, each day bringing with it a mix of laughter, mischief, learning, and quiet reflection. By this point, he had become more aware of the rhythm of his life in Elmore, the patterns hidden in the chaos, the little lessons tucked into every unexpected turn, and the ways in which his friendships, family, and even the town itself shaped him in ways he could not yet fully understand. Darwin remained his constant companion, a gentle, grounding presence who reminded him that some parts of life were steady, comforting, and unchanging, even when everything else seemed unpredictable. Together they explored the world with a mixture of curiosity and caution, learning when to dive into an adventure and when to pause, reflect, and consider the consequences of their actions. Even the smallest moments, a shared joke, a quiet glance between friends, a comforting pat from a parent, carried weight, shaping Gumball in subtle but meaningful ways. Friendships continued to deepen, growing in richness and complexity as Gumball encountered new experiences and emotions. Penny became a steady source of warmth and understanding, her quiet patience allowing him to feel safe sharing his thoughts, fears, and small victories. Their bond, while sometimes awkward and unsure, offered Gumball glimpses into a world where care and attention could coexist with humor and fun. Carrie taught him that some emotions didn't need to be spoken to be felt, showing him the value of empathy and quiet support. Tobias and Banana Joe continued to push him toward playful competition, reminding him that not all lessons were serious and that laughter could coexist with learning. Alan's optimism encouraged Gumball to see the good in situations and people, even when chaos seemed to dominate the day. Each friend became a small guide, helping him navigate the subtleties of connection, understanding, and care, and slowly showing him that the bonds we form can be as important as the adventures we pursue. Life at home remained a comforting, sometimes chaotic anchor amid the unpredictability of the outside world. Nicole's careful guidance encouraged reflection, responsibility, and thoughtful consideration, shaping Gumball's sense of right and wrong in quiet, lasting ways. Richard's gentle, carefree approach reminded him to find joy in even the smallest moments and to approach mistakes with humor rather than shame. Anais provided wisdom beyond her years, often helping Gumball untangle problems that seemed larger than life while doing so with gentle patience rather than reprimand. And Darwin, as always, remained a soft center of emotional stability, offering encouragement, love, and reassurance, quietly shaping Gumball's confidence and sense of security. Even in moments of chaos, the family's warmth provided a steady foundation, allowing him to explore, fail, laugh, and grow without fear of being alone in the world. School continued to be both a playground and a classroom of life lessons. Gumball experienced successes, small failures, misunderstandings, and triumphs that built his resilience and emotional awareness. He learned how to navigate conflict with friends, how to take responsibility for mistakes, and how to celebrate achievements, big or small, without diminishing the experiences of others. The peculiar and often surreal events of Elmore Elementary, once sources of pure chaos and laughter, now also became mirrors reflecting deeper lessons about patience, kindness, empathy, and the importance of understanding perspectives other than his own. Even the most absurd mishaps, from flipped classrooms to magical anomalies, offered gentle, indirect lessons that wove themselves quietly into Gumball's growing sense of self. As the days blended into weeks and the weeks into months, Gumball began noticing the subtler threads of life, the quiet gestures of care from friends, the unspoken understanding from family, and the small moments of wonder in a town that was at once ordinary and extraordinary. He started to appreciate that even the loudest, most chaotic events could carry meaning, and that love, empathy, and kindness often came in the form of ordinary, repeated acts rather than grand statements. His laughter remained bright, his curiosity remained boundless, and his imagination remained vivid. But underneath it all, a quiet wisdom began to emerge, softening his impulses and allowing him to approach life with more awareness, patience, and care. Evenings in the Watterson household became moments of reflection, comfort, and gentle storytelling. As the sky darkened and stars began to shine over Elmore, Gumball would settle in bed, replaying the day's events in his mind with a mix of amusement and contemplation. He thought of the laughter he shared with Darwin, the subtle kindness he witnessed among friends, the quiet lessons learned from mistakes, and the warmth of his family surrounding him. Each moment, whether funny, strange, or tender, became a part of the soft rhythm of his childhood, slowly building the foundation for the person he was becoming. And as the gentle nights of Elmore wrapped around him, Gumball drifted forward through his timeline, carried by laughter, love, and the comforting knowledge that even the smallest moments could shape a life in ways both quiet and profound. Gumball's journey through childhood continued to unfold like a soft, meandering dream, each day bringing a new mixture of laughter, learning, and quiet discovery. By now, he had grown more aware of himself, his friends, and the subtle rhythms of life in Elmore. He began to notice how one small choice could ripple outward, how a kind word could brighten a friend's day, or how a careless action could create unexpected complications. Even in the midst of chaos, the magical, strange, and sometimes unpredictable moments that seemed to follow him wherever he went. Gumball started understanding that his actions mattered in ways beyond immediate fun or mischief. Darwin remained his unwavering companion, offering calm guidance, gentle support, and quiet reassurance. Together they moved through their days with a balance of curiosity and caution, exploring new adventures while learning how to navigate emotions, responsibilities, and the ever-surprising world around them. Friendships continued to deepen and evolve, carrying with them lessons that were subtle but meaningful. Penny remained a source of gentle comfort and encouragement, her quiet patience helping Gumball understand the value of thoughtfulness and empathy. The bond they shared became one of mutual support, trust, and unspoken understanding, slowly teaching him how to care deeply for another person. Carrie's calm presence encouraged him to pay attention to subtleties. How someone's silence could speak volumes, how small gestures could convey great care, and how empathy often required listening more than speaking. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan continued to fill his days with energy, playfulness, and unexpected lessons. Tobias challenged him to grow through healthy competition. Banana Joe reminded him to find joy in even the most absurd moments, and Alan's relentless optimism showed him how to approach life with hope and cheerfulness, even when things felt uncertain. Each friendship acted as a gentle guide, helping Gumball navigate the nuances of connection, compassion, and understanding. Home remained a safe and nurturing environment where lessons were learned softly through love, guidance, and shared experience. Nicole continued to instill discipline tempered with care, helping Gumball understand responsibility without crushing his spirit. Richard's carefree humor reminded him that joy could be found in the smallest moments and that mistakes were often opportunities for growth. Anais quietly provided insight and wisdom, gently guiding him through challenges he did not yet know how to face alone. And Darwin, the constant heart of the family, offered support and stability, teaching Gumball that unconditional love was not only comforting, but also empowering. Even in the occasional chaos, the warmth of the Watterson household provided a foundation that allowed Gumball to explore, experiment, and grow safely, knowing he was always supported. School continued to serve as both a playground and a stage for learning about life, relationships, and personal growth. Gumball experienced moments of triumph and failure, laughter and embarrassment, mischief and understanding. He began noticing how his words and actions affected others, how conflicts could be resolved with patience and honesty, and how teamwork and empathy could strengthen the bonds he had with friends. The strange, often surreal events of Elmore Elementary added a layer of unpredictability, turning ordinary lessons into extraordinary experiences that shaped his character. Through every mishap, misunderstanding, and unexpected adventure, Gumball was learning to balance imagination with awareness, chaos with consideration, and fun with care. As the days blended softly into nights, Gumball grew increasingly attuned to the small, quiet moments that mattered most. He noticed the warmth in a friend's smile, the gentle touch of support from family, and the subtle lessons hidden within everyday experiences. His laughter remained bright, his curiosity remained boundless, and his energy remained vibrant. But beneath it all, a quiet understanding was taking root, an awareness of the importance of empathy, kindness, and thoughtful action. Even the most ordinary moments were now imbued with meaning, teaching him that life was built as much from small, tender interactions as from grand adventures. As the gentle night settled over Elmore and the familiar glow of streetlights painted soft patterns across the rooftops, Gumball would often lie awake thinking about his day, reflecting on lessons learned, friendships nurtured, and the warmth of family surrounding him. Each experience, each mishap, each joyful moment became a thread in the soft, colorful tapestry of his childhood, shaping him in ways both visible and invisible. And as he drifted through these formative years, guided by love, humor, and the comforting constancy of Darwin and his family, the story of Gumball's life continued to move forward, a slow, dreamlike journey filled with laughter, care, and the quiet magic of growing up in a world as extraordinary and gentle as Elmore itself. Gumball's journey through the soft, colorful days of his childhood continued to unfold with a gentle rhythm, each moment layered with laughter, lessons, and small discoveries. At this stage, he began noticing the ways the world around him was both unpredictable and comforting at the same time. The streets of Elmore, the classrooms of his school, and even the smallest corners of his home became familiar landmarks in a life that was constantly shifting in humorous, strange, and sometimes profound ways. Darwin remained his constant companion, guiding him with quiet patience and steady support, helping him navigate the unpredictable turns that came with friendships, family, and everyday adventures. Together, they explored the gentle chaos of their world, finding comfort in each other's presence, and learning how to balance curiosity with understanding, energy with thoughtfulness, and fun with care. Friendships continued to grow in subtle but meaningful ways. Penny remained a source of warmth and reassurance, helping Gumball understand the value of trust, empathy, and kindness. Their connection deepened slowly, filled with soft moments of shared laughter, shy glances, and quiet understanding that taught him how important it was to care for others thoughtfully. Carrie offered lessons in patience and emotional awareness, showing Gumball that sometimes the quietest people have the most to teach, and that understanding someone's feelings often required gentle attention and careful listening. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan added playful energy, challenges, and optimism, reminding him that joy, humor, and friendship could coexist with personal growth. Each relationship acted as a gentle guide, shaping his understanding of trust, compassion, and the intricacies of human, or in some cases, wonderfully bizarre, connection. Home remained a place of comfort and soft guidance, where the lessons of love, care, and responsibility were woven naturally into everyday life. Nicole's steady discipline encouraged him to reflect on his actions and consider their consequences, fostering responsibility without diminishing his playful spirit. Richard's gentle, carefree nature reminded him to embrace joy and not fear mistakes, offering a soft reminder that life's beauty often comes from imperfection. Anais quietly guided him with wisdom and insight, helping him approach challenges thoughtfully while always maintaining love and patience. Darwin, ever present, offered emotional steadiness, providing support and comfort through every misstep and triumph. Even when life in the Watterson household was chaotic or noisy, the warmth and consistency of family allowed Gumball to explore, grow, and learn safely, creating a foundation of trust and belonging that would guide him through the complexities of growing up. School became a setting for both adventure and reflection, filled with moments that shaped Gumball's understanding of the world. Misunderstandings with friends, small failures, and unexpected surprises taught him lessons in patience, empathy, and responsibility. He began to notice how his words and actions affected others, how friendships could be strengthened through care, and how kindness often made the loudest chaos feel manageable. The surreal and unpredictable events that frequently occurred in Elmore Elementary became gentle reminders that life could be strange, challenging, and beautiful all at once, offering lessons in resilience, perspective, and self-awareness. Each day, whether filled with laughter, mishaps, or quiet reflection, helped Gumball grow emotionally and socially, deepening his understanding of himself and those around him. As the evenings fell softly over Elmore and the pastel glow of the sunset gave way to the quiet shimmer of streetlights, Gumball found comfort in the rhythm of his life. He would lie in bed reflecting on the day's events, replaying moments of laughter, recognizing lessons learned, and appreciating the care of his family and friends. Every small victory, every gentle word, and every shared moment added to the rich tapestry of his childhood, quietly shaping him into a more thoughtful, compassionate, and self-aware young boy. Even amidst the unpredictable chaos that characterized Elmore, he began to understand the subtle magic in the ordinary. The laughter, the friendships, and the warmth of home. And as the gentle night carried him into sleep, Gumball's journey continued, a slow, comforting, and dreamlike unfolding, guiding him softly toward the next stages of life with love, humor, and the enduring support of those who walked beside him. Gumball's childhood continued to drift forward like a soft, gentle current, carrying him through days filled with laughter, discovery, and quiet reflection. At this stage, he began to notice the delicate balance between chaos and calm, between mischief and learning, and between the strange unpredictability of Elmore and the comforting rhythms of home and family. Every street, every classroom, and even the small corners of his home seemed to carry their own lessons, waiting patiently for him to notice. Darwin remained his unwavering companion, always present to steady him when the world felt overwhelming, always ready to share in his joy, and always offering gentle guidance when he stumbled or strayed too far into misadventure. Together, they explored the colorful and whimsical town around them, finding safety in one another as they navigated the funny, bizarre, and sometimes confusing situations that made Elmore feel like both a playground and a lesson in life. Friendships continued to grow and deepen, providing Gumball with opportunities to understand empathy, trust, and care on a more nuanced level. Penny's presence remained a source of quiet reassurance, a reminder that gentleness and understanding could exist alongside humor and fun. The bond they shared grew stronger with each passing day, teaching Gumball that patience, attentiveness, and sincerity could be just as meaningful as laughter and adventure. Carrie continued to guide him in the subtle art of observation, helping him recognize emotions in himself and others that often went unspoken, while Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan added bursts of energy, challenge, and optimism that reminded him to embrace joy even in the face of confusion. Each friend, in their own way, helped Gumball understand the richness of connection, the importance of listening, and the quiet power of kindness. Home remained the comforting heart of Gumball's world, a place where the lessons of life were quietly woven into everyday moments. Nicole's careful guidance encouraged him to think before acting and to reflect on the impact of his choices, instilling a sense of responsibility that balanced his natural impulsiveness. Richard's gentle, carefree spirit reminded him to find joy in mistakes, to laugh at the chaos, and to trust that life would unfold as it should. Aeneas quietly offered wisdom beyond her years, helping Gumball navigate challenges thoughtfully and with patience. And Darwin, always beside him, provided unwavering support, ensuring that no moment of doubt or confusion felt insurmountable. Even amidst the occasional messes, disagreements, or misunderstandings, the warmth and consistency of the Watterson household allowed Gumball to grow in confidence, understanding, and emotional maturity. School offered a blend of adventure, challenge, and subtle growth. Gumball's interactions with classmates, teachers, and the odd, unpredictable events of Elmore Elementary provided countless opportunities to learn lessons about patience, empathy, and resilience. He began to recognize how words and actions affected those around him, learning to navigate misunderstandings with care, and discovering that kindness often had a ripple effect far beyond what he could immediately see. Even in moments of chaos, he started noticing patterns, understanding consequences, and appreciating the ways in which friendships, empathy, and consideration could create harmony amidst the unpredictability of his surrounding. As the soft light of evening settled over Elmore and the town slipped into quiet, comforting rhythms, Gumball found himself reflecting on the day's events with a mixture of amusement, curiosity, and gentle awareness. Each laugh, each small act of kindness, each lesson learned added to the growing tapestry of his childhood, subtly shaping the boy he was becoming. Even in the midst of chaos, the magic of ordinary life, friendship, family, laughter, and love remained present, offering warmth and guidance for each new day. And as night draped the rooftops and streets in its soft glow, Gumball drifted into sleep, carrying with him the lessons, love, and gentle magic of Elmore, ready to continue his dreamlike journey through the unfolding story of his life. Gumball's life continued to flow gently forward, each day blending laughter, small lessons, and the quiet wonder of growing up in a town as strange and charming as Elmore. By now, he had begun to sense the subtle ways in which the world responded to him, the ways small choices and kind gestures could ripple outward, touching friends, family, and even strangers in ways he did not always notice at first. The chaos that once felt overwhelming had started to feel like part of a rhythm he was learning to navigate. Darwin remained the calm center of his world, always there to steady him when misadventures spun out of control, always sharing in his joy and always offering gentle support when he needed reassurance. Together, they moved through each day with a balance of curiosity and caution, learning to enjoy the unpredictable humor of life while quietly absorbing the lessons embedded in every misstep, every success, and every tender moment of connection. Friendships had grown richer, deeper, and more layered, shaping Gumball in ways both obvious and subtle. Penny continued to provide quiet warmth and understanding, her gentle presence teaching him patience, empathy, and the value of sincere care. Their bond, while playful and often awkward, carried with it small threads of trust and shared understanding, each moment together quietly strengthening the emotional foundation of their friendship. Carrie's calm and observant nature helped Gumball notice emotions that were unspoken, guiding him towards subtle empathy and thoughtful consideration. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan remained sources of energy, humor, and encouragement, reminding him that life could be joyful, that laughter could heal, and that challenges could be approached with optimism and creativity. Each friend contributed to a growing awareness of how relationships worked, how care and attention mattered, and how laughter and kindness often coexisted even in the most unpredictable situations. At home, the Watterson family continued to provide both stability and love, offering Gumball lessons in responsibility, patience, and emotional awareness in the gentlest ways. Nicole's guidance encouraged reflection, careful decision-making, and the development of moral understanding, always delivered with a touch of warmth that balanced firmness. Richard's carefree and playful approach reminded Gumball to embrace mistakes as opportunities for growth, to laugh at life's absurdities, and to find joy in simple moments. Anais quietly offered insight and guidance, helping him approach problems thoughtfully while maintaining compassion for himself and others. And Darwin, his constant companion, provided steady reassurance and emotional support, reminding him that he was never alone, even when the world felt overwhelming. Even the small, ordinary routines at home, shared meals, bedtime conversations, and quiet moments of laughter added layers of comfort and guidance to his ever-expanding understanding of life and love. School continued to be a place of both adventure and subtle lessons, a setting in which Gumball could explore his imagination while learning how to navigate the feelings, expectations, and relationships around him. He began noticing the impact of his actions on others, learning to resolve conflicts with empathy and patience, and understanding that friendships required care, attention, and sometimes gentle compromise. The strange, surreal events of Elmore Elementary no longer felt purely chaotic. They became opportunities for growth, teaching resilience, problem-solving, and the importance of understanding perspectives beyond his own. Even in moments of confusion or embarrassment, Gumball found lessons that quietly guided him toward emotional maturity and a deeper appreciation for those around him. As the days flowed into nights and the soft glow of Elmore's streetlights illuminated quiet streets, Gumball settled into the comforting rhythms of reflection, rest, and gentle awareness. He thought of the friendships he had nurtured, the love he had received, and the small victories and lessons that quietly marked each day. Every laugh, every act of care, and every tender moment added to the gentle tapestry of his childhood, shaping him in ways both seen and unseen. Even amidst the humor, chaos, and surprises of life, the warmth of home, the guidance of friends, and the constancy of Darwin provided a steady foundation. And as he drifted into sleep under the comforting night sky, Gumball carried with him the soft, enduring magic of Elmore, the lessons of growing up, and the quiet promise of the many adventures that still lay ahead. Gumball's world continued to unfold in soft, playful waves, each day a gentle mix of humor, learning, and quiet reflection. At this stage of his childhood, he had begun to notice the subtle patterns in life, the ways in which actions, words, and care could ripple outward, shaping relationships and creating moments of connection that were sometimes invisible, but always meaningful. The chaos of Elmore, once overwhelming and unpredictable, now felt like part of a rhythm he was learning to navigate, a series of surprises that offered both laughter and lessons if he paid attention. Darwin remained his constant companion, steady and reliable, sharing in Gumball's joy, offering reassurance when confusion arose, and helping him approach the world with a balance of curiosity and gentle caution. Together they wandered through the streets, classrooms, and small corners of Elmore, discovering that even the most ordinary days held moments of wonder and insight. Friendships continued to grow in depth and richness, guiding Gumball toward empathy, understanding, and awareness. Penny remained a soft, steady presence, her quiet patience teaching him about trust, care, and the gentle power of listening. Their bond was filled with unspoken understanding, shy humor, and moments of quiet connection that carried lessons he would carry with him for years. Carrie helped him recognize the subtleties of emotion, showing him that feelings could exist without being spoken aloud, and that awareness often required careful attention. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan continued to provide playful challenges, laughter, and optimism, reminding him that joy, creativity, and resilience were essential companions to kindness and care. Each friendship offered its own lessons, teaching Gumball that connection was both delicate and powerful, shaped by attention, empathy, and shared experience. Home remained the comforting anchor in Gumball's ever-expanding world, a place where love, guidance, and patience wove themselves naturally into daily life. Nicole's firm but caring approach encouraged him to reflect on his actions, consider consequences, and develop responsibility without quelling his playful spirit. Rich's carefree humor reminded him to embrace joy, laugh at mistakes, and find comfort in the simplicity of family. Anais quietly offered wisdom beyond her years, helping him navigate challenges thoughtfully while modeling empathy and patience. Darwin, ever present, provided stability and reassurance, making even the most chaotic days feel manageable, and showing Gumball that love and support could create a safe space for growth. The small routines at home, the shared meals, gentle teasing, and quiet moments of togetherness helped reinforce the lessons learned from both family and friends, providing a soft, steady foundation for Gumball's continued growth. School offered a unique blend of challenge, humor, and discovery, allowing Gumball to explore both his imagination and the emotional complexities of life. Misunderstanding, playful competitions, and surreal events became opportunities to practice empathy, patience, and problem-solving. He learned how to balance curiosity with consideration, how to navigate conflicts without losing friendships, and how even the most unpredictable moments could teach resilience and insight. Slowly, the chaotic events that once felt overwhelming began to reveal patterns, lessons, and meaning, allowing Gumball to grow into a more thoughtful and self-aware version of himself while still embracing the humor, wonder, and unpredictability that defined his childhood. As night fell over Elmore and the quiet streets were bathed in a soft glow, Gumball settled into familiar routines of reflection and rest. He thought about the friends who had shaped him, the family that had nurtured him, and the small victories and lessons hidden within everyday life. Each laughter-filled mishap, each tender act of care, and each moment of quiet understanding became threads in the gentle tapestry of his childhood. Even amid chaos, humor, and the strange magic of Elmore, Gumball carried with him the warmth, love, and lessons of his life, drifting into sleep with a heart softened by friendship, strengthened by family, and quietly prepared for the many adventures that still awaited him on the unfolding path of his journey. Gumball's days continued to pass in a gentle rhythm, each one a mixture of playful chaos, laughter, and quiet reflection, painting a rich tapestry of his childhood in Elmore. At this point, he had begun to notice the subtle currents of life, the ways small acts of kindness, careful words, or even moments of attentiveness could create ripples that touched others in ways he didn't always see at first. The town of Elmore, with all its quirky characters and unpredictable surprises, no longer felt entirely overwhelming. Instead, it became a canvas where every day offered both lessons and amusement, a place where the extraordinary and the ordinary intertwined seamlessly. Darwin remained his constant companion, quietly steadying him when adventures spiraled out of control, celebrating with him in times of joy, and gently guiding him toward understanding when the world seemed confusing or unfair. Together they wandered through school, streets, and the familiar corners of home, discovering that even the smallest experiences carried meaning and magic. Friendships had grown even deeper, revealing their own subtle intricacies and lessons. Penny's calm, steady presence continued to be a source of warmth and trust, helping Gumball understand the quiet strength found in patience and sincerity. Their interactions, filled with shared humor, gentle teasing, and small moments of care, carried with them lessons in empathy and attentiveness, teaching him the value of understanding someone beyond words. Carrie's quiet insight encouraged him to notice what others were feeling and to respect emotions that were not always spoken, while Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan continued to challenge and uplift him with energy, optimism, and lighthearted competition. Each friendship helped Gumball understand how connection, kindness, and laughter could coexist, shaping him into a more thoughtful and aware friend while still allowing space for mischief and fun. At home, the Watterson family remained a warm and steady anchor in his life, offering lessons that were gentle yet enduring. Nicole's guidance encouraged reflection, patience, and responsibility, teaching him to think about the impact of his choices without stifling his spirited nature. Richard's carefree approach reminded him that laughter and mistakes were part of growth, and that joy could be found even in unexpected chaos. Aeneas quietly provided wisdom and insight, helping him navigate challenges with clarity and care, while Darwin offered emotional support, comfort, and unwavering companionship. Even small routines at home, shared meals, bedtime conversations, and moments of quiet observation provided a soft rhythm that helped Gumball process his experiences, learn from them, and feel supported as he continued to grow. School remained a dynamic environment, full of lessons hidden in humor, mischief, and the odd, unpredictable events that frequently arose in Elmore Elementary. Gumball learned to recognize the effect of his actions on others, to resolve conflicts with empathy, and to understand the balance between imagination and responsibility. The surreal moments of his school days, once purely chaotic, began to reveal deeper lessons in patience, creativity, and resilience. Gumball discovered that learning wasn't confined to books or structured activities. It was also found in friendships, in laughter, in solving problems, and in paying attention to the people and moments around him. Slowly, the boy who once reacted impulsively to every twist and turn of life began to approach challenges with a thoughtful awareness, even while maintaining the playful energy that made him who he was. As evenings descended on Elmore and the soft glow of streetlights painted comforting patterns across rooftops and sidewalks, Gumball settled into the familiar rhythms of reflection and rest. He thought about the laughter shared with friends, the love and guidance from the family, and the small, meaningful moments tucked into each day. Every joke, every act of kindness, every tender or humorous moment became part of the quiet, growing tapestry of his childhood. Even amid the unpredictable chaos of Elmore, the warmth of home, the constancy of friendship, and the soft guidance of Darwin allowed Gumball to drift into sleep with a heart full of learning, laughter, and love, ready for the next stages of his life and the gentle adventures that awaited him in the unfolding story of growing up. Gumball's childhood continued to unfold gently, each day blending laughter, discovery, and quiet reflection into the rich tapestry of his life in Elmore. At this stage, he had begun to notice the subtler rhythms of the world around him, the way small gestures, kind words, or thoughtful actions could ripple outward, touching friends, family, and even the town itself in ways that were sometimes invisible, but always meaningful. The chaos of Elmore, with its strange happenings, unpredictable events and occasional magical mishaps no longer felt entirely overwhelming. Instead, it became part of a pattern he was learning to navigate, a world where humor, surprise, and life lessons existed side by side. Darwin remained by his side, steady and comforting, sharing in moments of joy, offering support when confusion arose, and helping Gumball balance curiosity, impulsiveness, and awareness as they explored the colorful streets, classrooms, and familiar corners of their world. Friendships deepened, gaining nuance and quiet strength as Gumball began to understand the value of empathy, attentiveness, and care. Penny continued to offer gentle reassurance, her presence teaching him patience and the importance of trust. Their relationship was filled with laughter, shared secrets, and subtle lessons in understanding, helping Gumball see that meaningful connections were built as much on quiet thoughtfulness as on excitement and fun. Carrie's quiet guidance helped him tune into emotions that were unspoken yet significant, showing him the importance of sensitivity and awareness. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan brought energy, optimism, and playful challenges, reminding him that joy and growth often went hand in hand, and that even chaotic or silly moments could teach resilience, creativity, and patience. Each friend, in their own way, shaped Gumball's growing understanding of relationships, kindness, and how laughter and empathy could coexist beautifully. The Watterson household remained a steady source of warmth, guidance, and gentle life lessons. Nicole's firm yet loving guidance encouraged reflection, responsibility, and careful thought, helping Gumball develop a sense of morality and awareness while respecting his spirited nature. Richard's carefree humor reminded him that mistakes were natural and even valuable, and that laughter could often soften life's difficulties. Anais continued to provide wisdom beyond her years, quietly helping him navigate challenges with insight, patience, and thoughtfulness. Darwin remained the emotional anchor, offering support and reassurance, ensuring that no misstep felt overwhelming, and that love and connection were constants in an otherwise unpredictable world. Through meals, bedtime conversations, and simple moments of togetherness, the family nurtured Gumball's growth, instilling values and resilience without overshadowing his playful curiosity. School remained both a place of structured learning and a stage for unpredictable, surreal experiences that shaped Gumball's understanding of himself and others. He began to notice how his words and actions affected classmates, how conflicts could be resolved with empathy, and how cooperation and kindness could strengthen friendships. The unusual events at Elmore Elementary, from time-bending mishaps to strange transformations, provided unexpected opportunities for learning, teaching him creativity, flexibility, and patience. Each incident, whether humorous or challenging, became a soft lesson in growth, showing Gumball that even the strangest or most chaotic moments held insight if he paid attention, reflected, and approached them thoughtfully. As evenings fell softly over Elmore, the town's pastel rooftops and softly glowing streetlights creating a comforting atmosphere, Gumball would settle into the quiet rhythms of reflection and rest. He thought of friends who had shaped him, family who had guided him, and the small, meaningful moments tucked into each day. Each laugh, every gentle act of care, and each lesson learned wove into the gentle, colorful tapestry of his childhood, forming the foundation for the person he was becoming. Even amid the unpredictability, humor, and whimsical chaos of Elmore, Gumball carried with him the soft magic of everyday life, friendship, family, laughter, and love, drifting into sleep with a heart ready to embrace the next stages of his journey, confident in the warmth and guidance that surrounded him. Gumball's days continued to drift forward in their familiar, gentle rhythm, each one filled with laughter, small adventures, and quiet discoveries that shaped the boy he was becoming. At this point, he had begun to notice that life in Elmore was full of subtle patterns and lessons hidden beneath the chaos and humor. Even in the most unpredictable moments, whether a classroom mishap, a neighborhood prank, or a magical accident, there were insights to be gained, small opportunities to grow, and gentle reminders that his choices had consequences, both big and small. Darwin remained his steadfast companion through it all, offering support when things went awry, celebrating each success with him, and providing comfort when confusion or frustration threatened to overwhelm him. Together, they wandered through the whimsical streets, quirky classrooms, and familiar corners of their world, discovering that each day, no matter how ordinary or chaotic, carried a quiet magic worth noticing. Friendships continued to take on deeper meaning, evolving from shared jokes and playful antics into lessons about trust, empathy, and connection. Penny remained a gentle and steady presence in his life, helping him understand the value of patience, thoughtfulness, and emotional honesty. Their bond, filled with shared laughter, quiet understanding, and small gestures of care, taught Gumball that meaningful relationships required attention and sincerity. Carrie encouraged him to pay closer attention to the feelings of those around him, showing him that understanding could often exist without words. Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan added bursts of energy, optimism, and lighthearted challenge, reminding him that fun and resilience could coexist, and that laughter often carried lessons in disguise. Each friendship shaped him in subtle ways, teaching him to balance playfulness with consideration, humor with empathy, and curiosity with attentiveness. Life at home continued to offer warmth, stability, and soft guidance. Nicole's careful, loving discipline encouraged him to reflect on his behavior, take responsibility, and understand the impact of his choices, all while nurturing his spirited nature. Richard's carefree and playful energy reminded him to embrace mistakes with humor, enjoy life's absurdities, and seek joy in small, everyday moments. Anais provided quiet wisdom and insight, helping him approach challenges with thoughtfulness and patience, while modeling empathy and understanding. Darwin, ever present, offered comfort and reassurance, acting as a constant anchor in the sometimes unpredictable tide of childhood. Even ordinary routines at home, family meals, bedtime chats, and moments of shared laughter offered lessons in love, connection, and emotional growth, reinforcing the values that quietly guided him forward. School remained both a playground and a classroom for life's lessons, where misadventures and surreal events provided unexpected opportunities for growth. Gumball learned to navigate the effects of his actions on others, resolve conflicts with empathy, and recognize that kindness and thoughtfulness were as important as humor and creativity. The strange happenings at Elmore Elementary, once purely chaotic, began to reveal patterns and lessons, teaching him resilience, flexibility, and the subtle art of problem-solving. Each day, whether filled with laughter, confusion, or quiet reflection, helped Gumball develop a deeper understanding of himself, his friends, and the world around him, blending imagination with awareness in a soft, comforting rhythm. As night fell over Elmore, casting gentle shadows across rooftops and streets, Gumball settled into the familiar quiet of reflection and rest. He replayed the day's events in his mind, thinking of the friends who had made him laugh, the family who had guided him, and the small victories, lessons, and moments of connection that quietly shaped his growing heart. Each laugh, act of kindness, and gentle moment became a thread in the soft, colorful tapestry of his childhood, Even amidst the humor, unpredictability, and strange magic of his town, Gumball carried with him the warmth of home, the support of friends, and the steady presence of Darwin, drifting into sleep with a heart full of gentle understanding and a quiet readiness for the adventures and lessons that awaited him in the days to come. Gumball's journey through childhood gradually carried him into the later stages of his time in Elmore, a world filled with laughter, chaos, and small, meaningful lessons. By this point, he had begun to see the intricate pattern and the daily rhythm of life, the ways in which tiny actions, words, and gestures could ripple outward, influencing friends, family, and even strangers in ways that were not always obvious. The town, once a source of overwhelming unpredictability, had become a familiar landscape where humor, mischief, and gentle reflection coexisted, providing him with a playground for growth, imagination, and empathy. Darwin remained his steadfast companion, offering reassurance, steady support, and the kind of quiet presence that made even the strangest adventures feel safe. Together they wandered through Elmore's streets, schoolyards, and familiar corners, discovering the lessons hidden in everyday moments and the subtle beauty in chaos, learning that life's magic often came in small, unexpected ways. As Gumball grew, his friendships deepened in both complexity and significance. Penny continued to be a gentle, steady presence in his life, teaching him about trust, patience, and emotional awareness. Their bond, filled with quiet moments, shared laughter, and subtle care, demonstrated the value of consistent kindness and the power of unspoken understanding. Carrie, Tobias, Banana Joe, and Alan each contributed in their own ways. Carrie showed him the importance of observing and responding to feelings that were not immediately expressed. Tobias encouraged resilience and healthy competition. Banana Joe reminded him to embrace joy in absurdity. And Alan's unwavering optimism offered lessons in hope and positivity. These relationships guided him toward emotional maturity, showing him that connections were built not only through laughter and shared fun, but also through empathy, trust, and thoughtful presence. The Watterson household continued to serve as a grounding force amid the unpredictability of his life. Nicole's firm but caring approach reinforced lessons in responsibility, reflection, and moral awareness, always delivered with love and patience. Richard's playful, carefree nature reminded Gumball to enjoy life, embrace mistakes, and laugh at its absurdities. Anais offered quiet guidance, helping him navigate challenges thoughtfully, while modeling patience, understanding, and intelligence beyond her years. Darwin, the ever-present anchor, provided emotional stability, companionship, and gentle reassurance, ensuring that Gumball never felt alone even when facing confusion or uncertainty. Together, the family created a soft, steady rhythm that allowed Gumball to explore, learn, and grow with confidence, finding security and comfort in routines, shared laughter, and tender moments. School, with its mix of surreal events, social challenges, and structured lessons, became both a stage for adventure and a classroom for life's quiet teachings. Gumball learned to navigate the impact of his words and actions on others, to handle conflicts with empathy, and to appreciate the nuances of relationships and cooperation. The strange, unpredictable happenings at Elmore Elementary, which once seemed like pure chaos, revealed subtle patterns, teaching him resilience, flexibility, and creative problem-solving. Each day offered opportunities to balance imagination with awareness, laughter with reflection, and playfulness with empathy. Over time, these experiences helped him cultivate a more thoughtful, self-aware approach to life while preserving the joy, spontaneity, and humor that defined his character. As Gumball approached the final stages of his childhood timeline, He began reflecting more deeply on the people, experiences, and small lessons that had shaped him. He recognized that the bonds he had formed with family and friends were not only sources of joy, but also anchors of emotional growth. Each mishap, joke, act of kindness, and quiet moment contributed to the soft, intricate tapestry of his development, subtly influencing the person he was becoming. He understood that life in Elmore, with its unpredictable mix of chaos, humor, and wonder, had taught him resilience, empathy, patience, and a gentle awareness of the world around him. Evenings became times of quiet contemplation, when Gumball would replay the day's events in his mind, savoring the laughter, noting the lessons, and feeling the warmth of love and friendship that surrounded him. He appreciated the gentle humor in mistakes, the comfort of shared moments with Darwin, the steady guidance of his family, and the richness of friendships that had deepened over the years. Every experience, whether absurd, humorous, challenging, or tender, contributed to the soft, comforting rhythm of his childhood, teaching him that growth was not always loud or obvious, but was often found in the small, repeated acts of care, understanding, and laughter. As the final chapter of his early life unfolded, Gumball lay quietly beneath the Elmore night sky, reflecting on the journey he had traveled. From his first chaotic steps, playful adventures, and silly mistakes, to the deep bonds of friendship, family warmth, and subtle lessons of empathy and patience. The town that had once seemed overwhelmingly strange had become a nurturing landscape, a world where imagination, humor, and learning coexisted harmoniously. Gumball drifted toward sleep with a heart full of love, laughter, and quiet understanding, carrying with him the lessons, friendships, and magic of childhood as he prepared for the many new adventures and dreams that awaited in the unfolding chapters of his life, confident in the gentle rhythm of growth, connection, and the enduring wonder of Elmore.